Sometimes in the middle of an ordinary day, something inside you quietly breaks, and you don't even notice when it begins. It happens in small moments, when you pause at a red light, in the elevator, or while brushing your teeth, and for a brief second, the world feels strangely misaligned, like reality has shifted half an inch out of place. You sense it not as pain, but as an invisible exhaustion, a weight that doesn't come from your body but from somewhere far deeper, a tiredness of being itself. Everything looks the same, your room, your job, your reflection in the mirror. Yet everything feels slightly hollow, as if you're moving through an imitation of your own life. You don't tell anyone because no one talks about this kind of emptiness. Everyone is too busy performing stability, too busy pretending to be fine, too busy racing towards something they no longer even believe in. So you learn to hide it. You learn to smile on command, to keep conversations shallow, to look interested when you feel nothing, to convince others you're okay because that's easier than admitting you're not. You start existing in fragments, half alive, half pretending, and you begin to realize that this quiet collapse doesn't happen suddenly, it happens slowly, invisibly, beneath the surface of ordinary days. You keep moving, but every step feels mechanical, like you're imitating the rhythm of a person you once were. You wake up, you get dressed, you go to work, you come home, you scroll, you sleep, and between these repetitions, something inside you fades. The version of you that once felt things deeply, the curiosity, the wonder, the spark, starts to dissolve, replaced by something duller, quieter, emptier. You tell yourself it's just a phase, that everyone feels this way sometimes, but somewhere inside you know it's not a phase, it's transformation. Not the kind that grows you, but the kind that drains you. You've stopped being a person and become a process. The world applauds your functionality, but you can feel the slow suffocation beneath it. Every conversation feels rehearsed, every plan feels obligatory, and even joy feels suspicious, like a borrowed emotion you can't fully trust. You remember what laughter used to sound like when it came naturally, before it became a performance for the comfort of others. You remember when silence was peaceful instead of heavy. Now silence terrifies you because it exposes the static inside your own head, the constant hum of questions without answers. You look around and see everyone rushing, working, building, posting, talking, and you start to wonder if they feel it too. This quiet sense that something essential is missing. Maybe that's why everyone clings to noise, because silence reveals the truth that we've built entire lives around avoiding ourselves. You start to sense the absurdity of it all, how people call this exhaustion adulthood, how they romanticize burnout as ambition, how they glorify suffering as if it proves worth. You begin to see how the system trains you to trade your soul for survival, how it teaches you to dream less so you can function more, how it convinces you that peace is found in achievement when achievement only deepens the void. It's not that you hate your life, it's that you become numb to it. The colors are there, but they no longer mean anything. The music still plays, but it doesn't reach you. You scroll through hundreds of smiling faces, each one a silent scream disguised as happiness, and you feel both connected and completely alone. The more you see, the less you feel. The more you have, the less it matters. You start to wonder if this numbness is what people mean when they say you get used to it, because that's what everyone tells you, that this is normal, that this is what growing up feels like, as if resignation were wisdom. But you can feel it in your bones. This isn't wisdom, it's decay. You begin to realize that the real tragedy isn't dying. It's continuing to live like this, hollow, automated, detached, performing humanity while quietly forgetting what it means to be human. You want to scream, but you don't. You want to stop, but you can't, because even in your exhaustion, the world keeps demanding movement. So you keep walking through days that blur together, half awake, half gone, waiting for something, a sign, a moment, anything that will remind you what it feels like to truly exist. You crave silence, but fear it. You crave change, but doubt it. You crave meaning, but no longer believe it's real. And that's the quiet horror of it, realizing that the thing you've lost can't be found in the world outside you. Because what's broken isn't the world, it's you. The alignment between who you are and who you pretend to be has slipped, and now everything feels slightly wrong, slightly off, slightly fake. You move through the same spaces, speak the same words, see the same faces, but none of it touches you anymore. You smile out of habit. You breathe out of duty. You exist because you haven't figured out how not to. And in rare moments of stillness, when the noise fades and the masks fall, you can feel it. That quiet, almost imperceptible ache that whispers the one truth you can't escape, that maybe life hasn't gone wrong at all. Maybe it's just that somewhere along the way, you stopped belonging to it. You start to notice how the world keeps getting louder, not because there's more to say, but because everyone is terrified of silence. Silence exposes things. It makes you hear the truth humming beneath everything. that most of what we call living is just distraction dressed as purpose. So you fill the silence with noise, music, conversations, scrolling, screens, endless motion, anything to keep you from hearing your own thoughts echo back at you. It's strange how people have learned to measure their existence by how busy they are, as if stillness were proof of failure. You meet people who talk all day about goals, money, dreams, followers, and yet none of them seem alive. They just move fast enough so they don't have to feel. And you begin to understand that this is the modern religion. Not faith, not love, not truth, but survival. People worship productivity the way they once worshipped God. They sacrifice their time, their peace, their humanity at the altar of progress, convinced that one day all the suffering will make sense. But it never does. It only deepens. Because the truth no one wants to admit is that most people don't want to live, they just don't want to die. They chase success not because they believe it'll bring them peace, but because standing still means facing themselves, and that's a hell they can't endure. So they run, into relationships that feel safe, into jobs that pay enough to numb them, into conversations that mean nothing but distract everything. They keep running because running makes it look like they're going somewhere, and the world rewards them for it. The faster you move, the less you have to think. The more you achieve, the less you have to feel. They call it ambition, but it's really avoidance. They call it discipline, but it's fear. Everyone's afraid of stillness, of quiet, of being alone long enough to realize they've been living someone else's idea of life. And that's the sickness no one wants to admit. Not depression, not anxiety, but this quiet epidemic of emptiness. This collective illusion that if we just keep doing more, buying more, showing more, we'll finally feel whole. But wholeness isn't something you earn. It's something you remember. And we've forgotten how. Look around. Everything is built to keep you from yourself. The news feeds you fear, the ads feed you desire, the influencers feed you envy, and the system feeds you work. They don't want you to think, because thinking leads to doubt, and doubt leads to awakening. And awakened people are hard to control. So they teach you to equate tiredness with success, distraction with happiness, noise with meaning. You spend your best years chasing validation from people who don't even see you, buying things you don't need, working jobs you hate, just to prove you're not falling behind. Behind what? You're not even sure. You compare your life to others' highlight reels and wonder why your existence feels smaller. You forget that no one posts their emptiness. No one records their sleepless nights. No one uploads their despair. We've built a world where everyone is pretending to live and everyone else is pretending to believe them. It's a beautiful illusion, glowing screens, smiling faces, filtered sunsets. But behind it, everyone is starving for something real. And when you try to talk about it, you realize there's no language for this kind of hunger. You can't tell someone, I feel like my soul is eroding. You can't say, I don't know who I am anymore. So you say, I'm fine. That's the universal translation of despair. I'm fine. The lie that holds the world together. Because if people ever told the truth, if they said, I'm exhausted, I'm scared, I don't know why I'm here, the illusion would crack. And maybe that's what we fear the most. Not death, but exposure. Because if the mask falls, what's left? You look around and realize no one ever taught you how to exist without pretending. You were raised to perform, to please, to achieve, to survive, but never to be. So you keep scrolling, keep working, keep distracting yourself, and in that constant movement, you feel the years disappearing. The faces change, the places change, but the feeling doesn't. It's always there, the quiet hum of dissatisfaction, the haunting sense that something essential is missing. You tell yourself that one day it'll make sense, that one day you'll arrive somewhere that feels like peace. But peace never comes because peace isn't a destination. It's the silence we've been taught to fear. The truth is, the meaning you're searching for won't come from outside. Not from success, not from approval, not from others. Meaning begins when you stop running. But stopping means confronting the void. And the void is terrifying because it shows you the truth that you've built an entire life out of things that don't touch your soul. You start to see it everywhere. The way people laugh without feeling it, the way conversations float without depth, the way love itself becomes a transaction of convenience. You realize how much of life is scripted, predictable, mechanical. Even emotions are now marketed. Grief turned into hashtags, love turned into trends, hope turned into slogans. Everything that once felt sacred has been monetized, sterilized, drained of spirit. And beneath it all, there's this quiet understanding that no one is really happy, no one really feels safe, no one knows what they're doing. We're all just pretending well enough to keep each other comfortable. And in that shared pretense, we call it life. You start to wonder if maybe the problem isn't that life is meaningless, maybe it's that we've buried meaning under layers of noise. Maybe we've replaced connection with communication, truth with attention, being with performing. We keep chasing light through screens while sitting in darkness. We confuse motion for growth, routine for purpose, and validation for love. We keep moving because we're terrified of what will happen if we stop. But the truth is, the real freedom we crave doesn't come from doing more. It comes from feeling again, from facing the silence, letting it hurt, letting it strip away everything false until only the raw, terrifying, honest self remains. That's where meaning hides, not in the noise we worship, but in the silence we fear. We spend our whole lives chasing ghosts we call meaning. First it's toys and approval, then money, love, success, followers, the next thing that promises to finally fill that quiet emptiness inside. But the silence never leaves. It waits behind every victory, smiling patiently, knowing we will return to it the moment the applause fades. The truth is that meaning isn't found, it's manufactured. Society builds illusions like scaffolding around the void to keep us from looking directly at it. Work hard, buy things, fall in love, start a family, chase dreams. These are the scripts we inherit, and most of us perform them without ever realizing the stage is hollow. We live as if we're permanent, but everything we love is borrowed. Every person we hold will one day vanish into the same dust that waits for us. And still we pretend that this parade of temporary things has eternal weight. We keep ourselves busy to avoid the weight of our own awareness. We drown the questions in noise, music, screens, laughter, ambitions, because the moment we stop, the silence begins whispering, none of this will last. The more we chase, the louder that whisper grows. Success turns into repetition, love decays into routine, faith becomes habit, and pleasure numbs itself until even joy feels mechanical. We confuse stimulation with purpose, thinking movement is the same as meaning. We become addicted to distraction, terrified of stillness, because stillness exposes the truth, that we are all temporary sparks pretending to be suns. Every generation builds monuments to prove it mattered, but the earth forgets faster than we can build. Civilizations crumble into dust, names fade from stone, and the stars burn out in silence. Everything we worship will be forgotten, including us. And yet maybe that's the cruel beauty of it. The universe owes us nothing, and still we keep creating. Out of fear, out of love, out of the desperate need to matter for even a breath of cosmic time. Maybe that defiance is what makes us human. Not hope, not faith, but the refusal to accept that nothingness wins by default. Because even in the face of absurdity, we still choose to speak, to build, to feel. We love knowing it will end. We dream knowing we'll wake. That's both tragic and magnificent. The pain of consciousness is the price of awareness. To know that you exist means to know you will end. And every heartbeat is both a gift and a countdown. We try to escape through meaning. But meaning is only the story we tell ourselves to survive the unbearable clarity of that truth. Maybe peace isn't found in answers, but in surrender, accepting that there is no grand purpose written in the stars, only the one we carve in the dirt while we're here. Maybe the real freedom begins when we stop demanding life to make sense, when we accept that the void isn't an enemy, it's the mirror that shows us what we are, fragile, fleeting, and still capable of love. We can stare into that darkness and still choose to create light, knowing it will fade. That's not despair, that's courage. To live without illusions is the hardest rebellion, because once the masks fall, you realize how much of the world runs on collective pretending. People worship the same gods they secretly doubt. They chase success they don't even enjoy. They post smiles they don't feel. We're all acting in a theater where no one remembers the script, but everyone's afraid to admit it. Maybe honesty has become the only real sin left. Because to say, I don't know why any of this exists, is to break the spell. But there's a strange liberation in that confession. When you stop pretending the world owes you meaning, you start noticing the quiet miracles that don't need one. The way sunlight hits a wall, the sound of rain at midnight, the feeling of being alive, for no reason at all. These are not answers. They're reminders that existence itself is the answer. That maybe it was never about finding meaning, but feeling it. Maybe purpose isn't a goal, but a moment a breath that says, "I was here." Maybe we're not here to conquer the void, but to coexist with it, to live with eyes open, unshielded, unafraid, to hold the pain and the beauty at once, knowing neither will last. There's a strange kind of love in that acceptance, a love that doesn't demand forever, because forever is a lie we tell to soften endings. The truth is sharper. Everything ends, and that's what gives it weight. If we live forever, nothing would matter. Mortality is the sculptor that gives our days their shape. The fragility of it all is not a curse, it's the only reason anything means anything. We spend our youth fearing time, but time is what makes love sacred, laughter real, and loss unforgettable. Every goodbye carves meaning into our existence. Every ache reminds us we cared. The tragedy of life is not that it ends, but that we waste it waiting for something more real than what's in front of us. We keep thinking happiness is hidden behind the next achievement, the next person, the next version of ourselves. But happiness was never a destination. It's a byproduct of awareness. It happens in the small, unnoticed seconds we rush past. Maybe that's what all the great minds were trying to tell us in different words, that the search for meaning ends where presence begins, that there's no final truth, only the ongoing act of being, that the only way to honor life is to live it, even without knowing why, to look into the darkness, see nothing staring back, and still say, "I choose to exist." Because maybe meaning isn't found at the end of understanding, but in the courage to keep living despite not having any. That's not despair, that's enlightenment disguised as defiance. And if there's any redemption for us fragile creatures of thought and fear, it's this, that we can face the silence, the chaos, the void, and still whisper, "It's okay." Because the universe doesn't need our permission to exist, but we need to give ourselves permission to live. Not perfectly, not forever, just honestly. To be awake inside the dream, knowing it's temporary, and still call it beautiful. There comes a point when the noise dies, the mind stops running, the heart stops pleading, and you just sit there, not in peace, not in despair, but in a strange stillness that feels like both. You realize that nothing was ever chasing you except your own reflection. All the things you ran toward, love, success, belonging, purpose, were just mirrors that showed you fragments of yourself. The world never owed you meaning. It just offered you endless ways to avoid noticing the void inside. And maybe that's why silence feels unbearable, because it strips away the illusions and leaves you face to face with the raw fact of existence. You were never in control, never meant to last, and never truly known by anyone, not even yourself. That truth could destroy you or set you free. Because the moment you stop demanding answers, something inside unclenches. The universe doesn't explain itself, it just is. The stars burn, the rivers flow, the cities decay, and all of it happens without a single justification. Maybe we were never supposed to understand. Maybe awareness was the accident of creation, the flicker of consciousness that turned survival into suffering. We learned to name things, to assign meaning, to say this is good and this is bad, and in doing so we cursed ourselves with the need for order. But existence doesn't care for our categories. It moves like wind through ruins, indifferent, unbroken. And yet within that indifference, there's something quietly sacred, the realization that nothing needs to last to matter. Maybe the meaning of life was never a word to be spoken, but a moment to be felt, the warmth of sunlight on your face, the laughter that vanishes into air, the fleeting pulse of being alive in a universe that will forget your name. You start to see beauty, not in permanence, but in disappearance. The sunset means something precisely because it fades. The love hurts because it ends. Every loss, every ache, every goodbye, they're proof that you were here, that you felt, that you didn't sleepwalk through your only chance at existing. Maybe that's what redemption really is. Not being saved from the void, but learning to walk beside it. To carry the darkness without letting it swallow you. To look at the absurdity of it all and still whisper, "I'm still here." Because even when meaning collapses, awareness remains. This quiet, unflinching witness that sees everything come and go. It watches the chaos and the calm, the love and the loss, and says nothing because it doesn't need to. It knows that everything is temporary, even itself. Maybe that's the final piece. Not in finding purpose, but in understanding that the search itself was the purpose all along. That the ache to know, to love, to matter was the point. You were never supposed to solve the riddle. You were supposed to feel it. Life was never a problem to fix, but a mystery to endure.
You can spend your whole life trying to make sense of it, or you can finally stop, breathe, and let it be what it is, an unfinished poem written by no one, read by everyone, forgotten by time. And in that stillness, something soft appears, a small forgiveness for yourself, for others, for the world that never gave you answers. Because maybe it was never supposed to. Maybe we've been trying to extract eternal truths from temporary moments. Maybe life was never asking for our understanding, only our attention. When you see it that way, everything changes. The pain doesn't vanish, but it stops feeling like punishment. The emptiness doesn't shrink, but it stops feeling like failure. You realize that even the void is part of the design, that silence has its own kind of music if you stop fighting it. The end of meaning isn't the end of life, it's the beginning of awareness. And in that awareness, you start noticing how beautiful the smallest things become, the way light hits dust in the air, the way time slows in the middle of an ordinary moment. Maybe that's the secret no one told us, that meaning was never hidden in grand purposes, but in the quiet persistence of being. You wake, you breathe, you lose, you love, and then you vanish. And somehow that's enough, because to exist, even for a heartbeat in a universe that owes you nothing, is the rarest kind of miracle. So when the silence returns, don't run from it. Sit with it. Listen. It isn't empty. It's full of everything that ever was, and everything that will never be again. That's where life hides when the noise fades. That's where truth waits, not in words, not in answers, but in the space between. And maybe after everything, that's all there ever was, the silence, and the ones brave enough to hear it.